Greetings, beautiful people. Welcome to the Dragon's Den. Young old man here, and what I want to talk to you about today is something that's very important to my childhood that I rediscovered in adulthood. When I was young, my father had this collection of, in my mind as a child, were comics, and they are comics. They're in comic form, but what they really were like basically Black History Illustrated magazines. That's what the creator and founder of the the set referred to them as. They're like textbooks of Black history and information about historical Black figures. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's Golden Legacy, right? Golden Legacy Illustrated History magazine. Now, this, right? Can't see that? Can you see that? All right. This is the special hardcover edition, right? It's created by Bertram A. Fitzgerald, right? Back in ooh, the first one he did was like 1966. So he's been doing these a long time, and he's still selling them. So the wonderful thing about these is that he still has his own website, right? They're not expensive. The price he was selling them for back in like the 70s and 80s is the price he's selling them for now still. Now, there's, let me see, there's 16 volumes, right? I have all 16 in individual books and individual magazines, right? All 16. I got the set as an adult for myself and for my daughter, and I actually got a set for my niece and my two nephews. And then, but on the website, he sells the entire 16 book set for I think $25, I believe. It's like $25. And then you can get the actual hardcover that has all 16 volumes. It's the same exact comics, illustrated histories, right? But in bound in a nice golden hardcover. Excellent. So I had to buy both because I wanted them for me, and for my daughter, I let my daughter choose. She can have the hardcover or the individual books. She chose the individual books. Either way, we share them. But I read these first. My father has he had like 14 out of the 16. He had like 13. He didn't have the entire 16 set, or if he did, they were the ones that weren't missing. He had them somewhere else. But when I was a kid, I used to read these over and over and over and over. This is one of my earliest introductions to comics. You know, even though it says Illustrated History magazine, you know, I was a kid. So I've been learning Black history since I was a kid, learning about Black and African historical figures since I was really young. I'm fortunate. I realize how fortunate I am. I say that all the time because so many people don't learn. But this is 2022. There's no excuses anymore. And especially for the price. I did a quick search before I started the video, and there's some people selling these sets for like an exorbitant amount of money. Do not buy these from Etsy or on Amazon or some on eBay. Nothing. Go to Bertram Fitzgerald's website, golden-legacy.com. He has a website. He has updated his sales. Okay, you can go to the website. You can still get all 16 volumes, like $25, or the hardcover for $50. I suggest you get both, like I did, because it's supporting something great, and clearly, it's not about the money. It's about the education and making sure that people, not just Black people, but particularly Black children, get education about people in history who look like themselves, which, you know, American and European education systems are not going to do. So The volumes are listed in order. I don't have them in order right here. I should have probably pre-done that. Ha ha ha. But, you know, do it real quick. 15. Because I can edit this. So there. 14. Probably had them out of order because I'm going to show my favorites. But we're going to do them in order so I can just show it to you. 13. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now some of them have a glossy cover. Some of them have a matte paper cover. It's irrelevant, right? Now, the first volume, Toussaint Louverture, and the birth of Haiti. Great leader, great general, kicked France's ass. Unfortunately, if you read the story, even though he rose to be this great leader of the African native peoples in Haiti who were being enslaved by the French, growing up as a child, he had close relations with the French people. Even though he was himself enslaved, he was educated and basically like a high-ranking house Negro, for lack of a better term. But knew right from wrong and decided to fight on the side of right and won. But in the end, he trusted the word of these people who he knew better than their word, than to trust their word, and was captured under the auspices of peace and negotiation, and, you know, sentenced to death. But Dessalines finished his fight, which is why Haiti's in the predicament it's in now, because they were the first African peoples outside of Africa and native peoples to kick a European's powers butt and thrive. And all of Europe, including America, has been making Haiti pay for their insolence, their thoughts, their insolence in deciding to be free and fighting for it and winning. Haiti won, and so they must be punished for winning, which is, you know, kind of what's going on here in America right now. Roe versus Wade. Women were never supposed to have rights. Black and indigenous people were never supposed to have rights under the original founding fathers of America. And things are getting rolled back because these old white men are old and they're dying, and the future that they see coming doesn't look like the future that their grandparents told them was supposed to be. All white men ruling over all everything, including white women. So, and there's a lot of white women that want to go along with that future. Unfortunate. And you have a lot of colonized Negroes and indigenous people and others who want to go along with it too. It's going to come down to a fight because that's all they understand. It's unfortunate. I don't want my daughter to have to see this happen, have to live in this, what's coming, but it's coming. A lot of places it's going to come fast, and others. Texas and Florida. But anyway, I may edit that out. But, you know, Toussaint Louverture, Help Free Haiti, great story. Now, second book, of course, the great Harriet Tubman. If you don't know who Harriet Tubman is, even in regular American public schools, you should know who Harriet Tubman is. At least in non-white trash areas. Yeah, I said it. But Harriet Tubman, great indigenous black woman who decided she was going to be free and did what was necessary to get free, and then took it upon herself to free others. But only those who were willing to do what was necessary to do to be free. Harriet Tubman was a ninja. You do real history on what she knew and the skills that she learned and developed. She led soldiers in the Civil War and freed more people and destroyed a whole lot of Southern Confederate shit. She's a hero. If you didn't know, now you know. But get this and you learn about her if you didn't already know. Now, this was one of my favorites when I was little. They were all my favorites, but this is one of my favorites, learning about Crispus Attucks. Crispus Attucks was a young black boy, grew up early days of the burgeoning America. Boston Tea Party, right? New settlers in America fighting the British because taxation without representation, all that. When they led a revolt on the shores, I forget where that shores, what the hell do you call that thing? Pier? Dock. The docks, right. So, early America, before it was actually America, and Britain was still ruling things, and the settlers, European invaders, and early others who were here fighting against British rule. This was one of the sparks. They had a revolt at the docks fighting tyranny of Britain, and Crispus Attucks was the first man to fall in the battle against British rule. Black man was the first to die fighting for the birth of this dumbass, racist ass country. How ironic is that? And a lot of you out there don't even know his name or who he is. It's sick. Okay, 4. Benjamin Banneker. Brilliant. Was born free. Here in Maryland. Like Harriet. Harriet was here in Maryland too. But yeah, Benjamin Banneker. Genius. Genius. He designed Washington, D.C. They want to argue about the little fixed and facts or whatever. No, he designed Washington, D.C. He also built the first grandfather clock completely out of wood here on Turtle Island, America, called occupied Turtle Island, called America. And he actually built a watch first. He had a European friend, borrowed his watch. He took it apart, made a blueprint of all the parts, put it back together, gave it to the dude, built the watch out of wood. And the grandfather clock he built out of wood had perfect time for its entire life. Man was a genius. Probably one of the smartest men that ever lived. And he was born in this place. Sad. But glad I know of him, glad he lived here. Another of my favorites. Matthew Henson. A great explorer. First non-Inuit person to reach the North Pole. My native brothers and sisters who lived up there, who Europeans like to call Eskimos, Inuits, they lived up there, I'm pretty sure. But talking about Europeans and their writing of history, but even they have to acknowledge that Uh, Matthew was the first to get there. He was on the expedition. He was like the second or right hand man of Captain Matthew Perry, I believe, was the man. Peary, excuse me. Peary, not Perry. Peary. And, you know, they did several expeditions and had to turn back a few times. But on the last one, they kind of split up, and Matthew made it to the North Pole before Peary did. Historical fact. Alright, now, this one, Alexander Dumas and family. So this gives a really cool breakdown of who Alexander Dumas was and his father was and family and Europe, clearly. But if you've ever read or heard of The Three Musketeers, The Man in the Iron Mask, all of these great stories Europeans love to poster up, black man wrote them. So, yeah, he was a great writer, Alexander Dumas, and good swordsman. His father was a great general. Excellent family. Now, the other person that most people learn about in history of America, outside of Harriet Tubman, is Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass, another person, not another man because Harriet was a woman, but another person of African, native descent, indigenous descent, who decided he was going to be free and did what was necessary to be free. And then, in a less direct way, Harriet was very direct. She was going down, getting people, Underground Railroad, all of that good stuff. Frederick, though I'm pretty sure, and I know he helped out with the Underground Railroad and stuff like that, he was more political. He was more trying to appeal to the moral nature of the invading Europeans who made this country. But that don't work, clearly. But you're going to have those people who are in the thick of the fight and those who do the political fight and do what's necessary. Both arenas are necessary in this culture, in this country, unfortunately. Harriet was get the shit done. Frederick was, try to get them to own up to their shit. Martin, try to get them to own up to their shit. Malcolm was, we gonna get shit done. Anyway, and then Volume 8, Frederick Douglass Part 2. There's a lot on Frederick. A lot of people really like Frederick Douglass. Great man, led a great life. But yeah. And then this one, who I know there's all kinds of talk about films being made about him and stuff like that. But again, I learned about him when I was really little. Robert Smalls. Again, another black indigenous person who decided to be free and used his intelligence and skills, ingenuity and imagination to get himself and his family and friends and their family free. This dude hijacked a Confederate ship, sailed it through Confederate waters to Union waters, and actually became a captain in the Union, became an officer in the Union Army, and was fighting battles. He actually became, if I remember, either a congressman or a senator. He became a politician, and yeah, Congress. He was a congressman. And these were the early days. This is during the Civil War, right after the Civil War, during the Reconstruction after the Civil War. black people had a lot of rights. White people are actually trying to do the right thing, but racist ass Confederates, ex-Confederates who lost the war, who are now part of America again, infiltrated government, and we see how long game their infiltration is. Ku Klux Klan is all in the halls of Congress, the Senate, and American government, and your police stations and local governments all over the place. So, there you go. Joseph Simke and the Amistad Mutiny. I don't remember reading this one when I was a kid. I don't remember my father having this one. He might have, but I don't think this one piqued my interest as much as others. So I probably didn't read it as much. Like I said, I think my father might have had the whole set, but I only read certain ones over and over and over. This one I didn't read. If you ever saw the movie Amistad, of course, they made a movie, Amistad, starring I just had his name, and it went right out my head right when I was about to say it. Jimon Hansu. If I remember correctly, he actually played. I think he played Joseph Simke. You know, give us free, all that. So yeah, you seen that movie. You know the history, but it was written first, right? Men of Action. White Wilkins Marshall. So, I know Thurgood Marshall. Walter E. White. I did remember his name. Walter E. White. Roy Wilkins. And Thurgood Marshall. So, all political fighters for the rights of indigenous black people here in occupied territory island called America. Now, this one was one of my favorites. Matthew Henson and this one, Black Cowboys. I wore this one out, but it was my father's, it wasn't mine, so I had to be very careful because but in this one, learned about Nat Love, also known as Deadwood Dick, is one of my favorite characters in history to this day. They used his name, created a full story in the Netflix film cowboy film. I forgot the name of that film, and they used a lot of actual real historical Western, black indigenous Western people, and you know, it wasn't a historical film as far as, you know, it was a biographical film, but these characters, Nat Love and Wilson Pickett, and not Wilson Pickett, J.P. Beckworth. I don't think they used Willis Peoples. Yeah, it was Bill Pickett. That's what I said, right? Yeah, Bill Pickett, John P. Beckworth. The Harder They Fall. So, a lot of the characters, historical characters that are documented in this, were actually used in The Harder They Fall, in the Netflix film. So hopefully, watching the Netflix film, Cherokee Bill, he's in here, watching that Netflix film, you would actually go and look up the names of these characters and find out their real histories. So not all of them are in here, but most of them are in here, and then, you know, you can do some more research. And then of course, you can't have Black American historical magazine set, illustrated history magazine set, without The Life of Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, I'm not going into that. You should know who that is by now. White people have co-opted his message to an insane, disgusting degree, but we know what he was really about. And if you don't know, you need to do some real history. Actually listen to his speeches, not just the most famous ones, Telegraph. And even those, you need to listen to the whole things, not just the sound bites that they put out every year around his birthday. And when political guys are on, when political white people are on their political circuit campaigning for black votes. Anyway, now this was another one of my favorite ones that I read constantly because it was just so fascinating to me. I always knew black people were global, but there were certain things that just you didn't think of until you had the knowledge of it. And this one, The Life of Alexander Pushkin. Alexander Pushkin is Russian. He is the father of Russian poetry. That fact's been living in my head since I was like 6, 7 years old. Right? Like, the father of Russian poetry is a black man. His father was like, his grandfather was like an engineer, or his father was an engineer, and whatever. And he was a great poet, obviously. He was also a swordsman and a gunman. He fought duels all the time. That's how he died, fighting duel. He's a poet, just passionate, got into shit, slept with women, whatever. But I just thought it was fascinating that the father of Russian poetry, Russia being like one of the whitest places you could possibly think of, was actually a black man. Gotta love it. This one, talking about ancient African kingdoms. So a lot of these are, composites of information. So this one is just talking about a lot of ancient African civilizations, as it says on the cover. Nubia, Kush, Ghana, Mali, Kanem Bornu, and there's so many more. These are not supposed to be comprehensive end-all be-alls of historical, African, black historical figures and eras. This is jump-off point. It's to start. It's to spark the interest in children's minds, not just black children. White kids need to know this information too. So-called Hispanic kids need to know this information too. Okay. Anyway, now another one of my favorites. Black inventors, Latimer and Woods. Now, this one focused on Lewis Latimer and Granville T. Woods. Two great inventors who invented a lot of the stuff that makes up modern America, but actually the modern world was created by black people. Now, in all of these illustrated magazines, there are like extra people spoken about, inserts. Like for this one instance, on the cover it says black. It does say inventors plural, Latimer and Woods, and it mentions those two. So they have extended stories of those two, but there's actually stories of Garrett A. Morgan, Frederick Jones, Dr. George Carruthers, right? Little anecdotes at the end. At the end of each main story, there's extra Norbert Rillieux, Jan E. Matzeliger, Elijah McCoy, who the term, if you've ever heard the term, the real McCoy, which means something is actually genuine. So, you got the 16 volumes with extras, and a few of them, and a nice hardcover version. The same comics inside, same illustrated histories inside, right? And it's just really good good information for a child. See, like in the end of Benjamin, man, I want to got Walter E. Washington and Bishop Richard Allen. So, yeah, it's extra information and extra histories of extra peoples and stuff. So, you know, huge thanks to Mr. Bertram A. Fitzgerald for creating these. Like I said, go to his webpage, golden-legacy.com. Order from there. It's the same price now as it was back in the day. You like the worth of these. Like, you should be paying like $100 for the whole set. He's selling it for like $20, $25, $50 for the hardbound edition. Like, that's what education's about. That's how it's supposed to be done. He's not, he needs to make a living, he needs to make, money, to compensate for, but he's not doing this to get rich, it's to educate people. That's a great thing. So support him, because I don't know how much longer he's going to be doing this, or if his family's going to continue it or whatever. I have to do some research about him. I had planned to, maybe I will after this, but I just wanted this to be about his work and what he's created for people to educate themselves about the history of indigenous black peoples here in America and the world. Our influence throughout the entire history of this world predates Europeans, and thrives through the violent overtake of the world by Europeans. So we were here, we still here, we gonna be here. And if you want to learn more about the history of who we are, what we've done, how powerful we are, how intelligent we are, how innovative we are, how great we are, even how cunning and bad some of us can be, this is a great start for your children and for you if you've not been fortunate enough to have your intelligence peaked on the contributions of black, African, indigenous peoples and the diaspora to the movement of this world. So check out these Golden Legacy illustrated history magazines. I think your kids will love it. I think you may love it. And it's well worth it. It's well worth it. Young woman out. Hagone. Peace.